morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. I'm Francesca Cravotto, and I'm a supply chain solution consultant at Intesa, a Kindred company. I would like to remind you that you will be able to submit your questions in the Q&A section. We will answer to them at the end of our webinar. Today we are going to discuss about the international invoicing and focusing on the latest updates. To do so, I have the pleasure to introduce you my guests for today's discussion. We have Camillo Loro, Director of Osservatorio Digital B2B at Politecnico di Milano, and Emil Olsson, Regulatory Affairs Associate at Pagero. Thank you for being here with us.
Happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Firstly, I would like to remark the importance of the partnership between Intesa and Pagero. In fact, together we will facilitate the international exchange of electronic invoices. This solution, we can say that completes the invoicing service offered by Intesa to all companies in order to avoid to exchange our customers digital invoices with their international partners quickly and easily. Moreover, today we want to learn more about everything concerning the regulatory part, so I leave the floor to Camillo to better explain us. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. Hello, everybody. I'm Camillo Loro. Thank you, Francesca, for the introduction. I'm the Director of Digital B2B Observatory and International Observatory on Electronic Invoicing at Polimi. And today I'm going to present you an overview on the electronic invoicing at a European level. So before doing that, please let me say something on the International Observatory on Electronic Invoicing. The observatory was created this year specifically to monitor the evolution of electronic invoicing at European level with involvement of different actors, academics, practitioners, service providers, and international institutions. But now going back with the presentation. The topic of electronic invoicing is relevant in Europe since we have high VAT evasion that amounts to 93 billion euros in Europe. And Italy is the most evader, is one of the main evaders, with accounting more than 25% of this evasion. So what happened? That in February 2022, the European Parliament called on the European Commission to take several measures, above all exploring the possibility to implement an electronic invoicing solution between the enterprises and the small and medium enterprises. So the European Commission proposed VAT reforms called the VAT in Digital Age with the main aim to reform the VAT system in Europe and also to try to boost the digitalization in Europe with the ultimate goal to collect an extra 18 billion euros from the member states in VAT revenues each year. The three main points are the real-time electronic invoicing-based digital reporting system, an update VAT rules for passenger and transport, and a short-term accommodation platform, and the introduction of a single EU-wide VAT registration. I just want to focus on the first of these points, since here there is the relevance of the electronic invoicing in Europe. So the European Commission started studying the different alternatives, strategic alternatives, starting from a status quo, so do nothing about the current situation, with a gradual introduction of digital tools to monitor the transaction data, to an introduction and implementation of a digital reporting requirements, the DRR, for the European transaction. In this sense, those who want to introduce a national standard must use the European system. Those who already have one must ensure at least the interoperability between the member states. The alternative 4A has been addressed as the most viable to be implemented in Europe. It is based on the electronic invoicing that follow the European standard, so the XML UBL, with a removal of certain constraints, for example, the waiver that it is needed to implement an obligation within the states or invoicing acceptance, with a possibility of using an structured invoicing for domestic transaction and submit the invoice 2 days after transaction. There are also introduction of new data like payments, details and deadline, and value-added service for taxpayers. But the VAT evasion and this directive are not only the reasons for an obligation. In fact, we have a fragmented situation in Europe, both for the different obligation and for the different formats and model used by the different member states. For example, as you can see in this chart, on 30 countries analyzed, only one have a total B2G, so business to government obligation, and a partial B2B obligation, with some exception for the small enterprises. That is the Italian case. 11 countries instead have a total obligation in the B2G sector, regardless company size or turnover. 7 countries have a partial business to government obligation, with some exceptions for the public administration typology, or for the value of the invoice, or for the company size. 11 countries again have a voluntary obligation, so there is not a structured digital transformation for electronic invoicing, but there is the possibility to send the invoice to the public administration in a voluntary basis. About the format, here, as you can see, on average, the countries that have an obligation use predominantly the national standards. On the other hand, the countries that don't have an obligation use most the European standard. If we look at the B2B obligation, so only Italy nowadays have a partial obligation for business-to-business sector, some nations are following a path to the introduction of electronic invoicing also in B2B sector. You can see France, Germany, Poland and Spain with concrete steps in this sense. I cited before some models, different models for the introduction of such an obligation. We have mainly 5 models: the real-time invoicing reporting model, the clearance model, the centralized exchange model, the interoperability model, and decentralized CTC, continuous transaction control model. For time constraints, I will not go in depth with the specification and characteristics of all these models, but I just want to give you some insights about the impact of this model on the fiscal support, so support to the tax authority, and interoperability. In fact, the first three models have a medium and high support for the fiscal purposes. Instead, interoperability model at the centralized CTC based the system above all on interoperability purpose and not on the fiscal one. And now I just want to concentrate the attention on two of these models, the centralized exchange model and the centralized CTC. Why? Because the first one, the centralized model, is the one used by Italy, and I want to give you, I want to say you something about the needs for implementation of such a system and the key success factors in the path of implementation. About the needs, apart for the high VAT evasion, as I said previously, we want to also simplify the procedures and also try to have an impact on a country attractivity. In fact, Italy is at the bottom of the digital economic and society index in Europe. So this could boost the digitalization and also try to increase the company competitiveness. But instead, the key success factors, we follow a specific path with a gradual introduction between to the public administration, central public administration, and then local public administration, and then in the B2B sector. Try to involve all the stakeholders, service provider, enterprises, administration, with a trial of the system to better use the system once it was implemented. And communicate the benefits, the importance of communication with all the reasons that I explained for the Digital Economic and Society Index and for the competitiveness also abroad the nation. About the decentralized CTC, instead, I want to say something to you because behind this system there is the PEPPOL network. PEPPOL network, the Pan-European Public Procurement Online is a structure created by a non-profit association of Open PEPPOL to boost the electronic procurement and facilitate these procedures in Europe. About the functioning, we have the access points that play an intermediary role, service provided, accredited by PEPPOL authorities, and allow the exchange of documents between supplier and a client. We have a lot of access points increasing during the year with 333 access points in 2022 and new project talking with the Open PEPPOL. We know that the system will still growing and new project will be implemented. Europe, where the infrastructure was created, has the higher number of access points, but the fact that there are a lot of access points doesn't mean that the system is being used as such other parameter like the number of the document exchange should be recorded to see the usage of this solution. So as a recap of my presentation and different points that I touched, we said that the VAT in digital age is the reform used by the European Commission with the usage of DRR, digital reporting requirements. Among the different alternatives, so the DRR was chosen as the strategic alternative suitable to be implemented. Peppol's potential is not fully exploited, but there is a relevance and interest by the member state, a willingness to invest in this system. More and more countries are adopting the electronic invoicing also in the B2B sector, so it's now the time to boost the implementation of electronic invoicing to foster also the cross-border interoperability between companies. That's all by my side, and I want to thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Camillo, for your great explanation. I think you were very, very exhaustive for this field, for the regulatory field. So, back to reality. What should a company do in order to adapt? For sure, it must be prepared, of course. It must be prepared in order to, first, define a roadmap of countries in scope. Second, produce digital invoices for each country. We know this type of activity involves and impact on the ERP of our customers. And in the end, develop an API connection with an invoice service provider, such as Intesa, with its single point of interface. And it's about the single point of interface that now I just want to analyze with you our graph in the slide. Our customer, what can do? Our customer can send or receive their international invoices in the desired format through the API connection provided by Intesa. Once the custom formats have been received from Intesa, our Intesa platform that you can see in the middle of our slide standardize and then translates them into the format required by the local apps of each country. As you can imagine, of course, each country is subject to its own regulation, we know, and although this can be very, very complex for our customers, our partnership with Pagero guarantees the optimal solution in the field of regulatory compliance. For this reason, I leave to Emil the floor in order to explain us better what's going on in the regulatory field.
Thank you, Francesca, and thank you for the previous introduction. As you say, I'm a part of Pagero's regulatory affairs team, and our main task is really to scour the world and know what's happening, look at the horizon, and be on top of all the upcoming e-invoicing mandates. So with that being said, let's just jump into the fun part and see what's up in the world. So we have a lot on the horizon, but before I go further into the future, I just want to take a small recap of what has already happened in 2023. Because I would say January was a very busy month for the upcoming e-invoicing mandates. Starting with Saudi Arabia, which kicked off their phase 2 of their e-invoicing mandate. Now, if you don't know Saudi Arabia, they were previously in phase 1 last year as well, which required taxpayers to be able to generate and store electronic invoices. But now we're in January, we entered phase 2, which is called the integration phase, where all the taxpayers are going to have to now integrate with SATCA, the tax authority of Saudi Arabia. This, of course, is done in waves. Wave 1 is now between January and July, which is the largest taxpayers, a selected few. And then we're also going to see in July and October Wave 2 and 3. So a lot of exciting stuff in the Middle East for sure, and we're also seeing a lot of the Gulf states imitating or looking to Saudi Arabia for inspiration for their own mandates. But going further, we can see as well Serbia is an interesting mandate that came in January as well, a B2B invoicing through a centralized platform called CEF. We also had the Romanian finally introducing penalties for non-compliance with their RO e-transport mandate, which is a e-invoicing mandate for a select few taxpayers who are working with high fiscal goods such as alcohol or fruits and food, I believe. So this taxpayer is going to have to not only issue e-invoices but also be monitoring the transports. We also have Ghana in Africa, which is quite an interesting mandate. Now Ghana has been pushing quite aggressively, and they are planning by end of 2024, if I don't misremember, to have all taxpayers in Ghana be issuing e-invoices that are approved by the Revenue Authority. And we're talking both B2B, B2G, and B2C e-invoices. And it's very exciting to see what's happening more, and we're also seeing more and more African countries as well joining in. And on that note, going back to maybe today in April, so to speak, we also have Egypt. Now Egypt kickstarted a very fast mandate back in December last year, and it's a clearance-based C2C mandate where you have to get approval on your e-invoices. So back in December, the largest taxpayers started this mandate, but now in April already, all remaining taxpayers are also going to have to issue B2B e-invoices and get approval with the ETA platform. So let's see, let's go forward a little bit more here. In October, and I want to actually do a little bit of highlight on Japan as well. Japan has really been one of the big promoters and pushers of PEPL as well in Asia. So it's not only European countries. In October now, they're also going to kick off their qualified e-invoicing system. Not e-invoicing, qualified invoicing system, which is basically their big revamp or rehaul of their VAT system, going from one VAT rate or JCT rate to multiple JCT rates. Now this is not an e-invoicing mandate per se, but they are laying the ground for future developments, to be sure. And now let's go into 2024, which I think is a very exciting year. We have lots of stuff happening here. And starting off in 2024, we're of course going to have the Biscaya region in the Basque Country. Now Basque Country in Spain, it's in northern Spain if you don't know. The other regions have already started doing their real-time invoicing reporting mandate through the ticket buy system. So they're already active, but now Biscaya as well are going to join this real-time invoicing reporting mandate. Including in this mandate, we also have accounting software that needs to be reported with the El ROI. And on the topic of Spain itself, we also have, as Camilo here mentioned, a B2B mandate up and coming in Spain as well. So previously, last year, I believe, Spain implemented the Crea y Crece law, which I think, my Spanish is not that good, but I believe it means something like create and grow.
It's enough good. Yeah,
Thank you. It was introduced, but so far it's still a bit of an if, I would say, if the mandate is going to be kicked off, at least in April, due to the fact that Spain still requires derogation from the EU Commission to be able to push an e-invoicing mandate, or most likely that's the case. So we're still expecting maybe some slight changes or slight delays to this B2B mandate coming up in April. We also don't yet know all the technical specifications. These has yet to be revealed, and we are awaiting these eagerly, I would say, from Pagero's perspective, which is a very interesting mandate to be sure. We also have, starting maybe in the beginning of January 2024, Denmark. Now, Denmark is a very interesting country as well, I would say. They're doing their own way to make e-invoicing a big thing in the country. They do this by their new bookkeeping act, which basically is not an e-invoicing mandate per se, but they are making it mandatory for all companies, taxpayers, when all is said and done and all implemented, to have accounting software which is e-invoicing enabled. And with this being said, this would mean that all taxpayers in Denmark will be able to use e-invoices, even though it's not mandatory. But from our perspective as Pagero, when we're looking upon this, we're seeing a way to make the entire market e-invoicing or e-invoicing users. So this is very exciting, and maybe also by doing this way, they don't need derogation from the EU Commission. So this is a very interesting take on how to implement the invoicing in a country, to be sure. Also, very exciting, I would say as well, I think this is very interesting, is Malaysia. A lot has been brewing in Malaysia in the last years, I would say. I believe PEPL is going to be enabled in Q3 or Q4 this year. But now also, even like last week, so this is like brand new information. Last week they announced that we're going to have a B2B mandate starting next year in June. So we're going to start off with a pilot at the beginning of the year, possibly in January. And by June, it's going to be mandatory to do B2B and B2G e-invoicing. And then from that point, it's going to be a gradual rollout, which we usually see with these kind of mandates, where they start with the biggest taxpayers and then they move down to the smaller ones. So from 2024 until 2027, if I don't misremember, we're going to see all taxpayers start doing B2B and B2G e-invoices. And not only that, I believe at the end of the mandate in 2027, also B2C is going to be part of this. So very exciting times to be sure. Now, we can also mention a little bit about, or worth mentioning on the Malaysia as well. I do believe it's going to be some kind of centralized clearance platform. The details are not yet to be really revealed. This is very new, and we're expecting this to be coming shortly. But moving back to a little bit of rumors, we also have Belgium. So in the industry in general, I would say we hear a lot about a B2B mandate coming up in Belgium. To this date, there is no official confirmation, and I will just keep this as rumors. But there is talk about a B2B mandate starting in January 2024, mainly that all taxpayers are going to need to have to do a reception of e-invoices. And then from that point, it's going to be large businesses in July and so forth. But bear in mind, rumors, not official yet, and we do expect this timeline to be changed. All right, the big month in 2024 is going to be July, to be sure. We have the French mandate and the Polish mandate. Now I have specific slides for these, I will go into more detail soon. But France is going to have a gradual rollout as well. We're talking e-invoicing and e-reporting. And Poland, I think, is going to start everything in July for all taxpayers. Last but not least, in 2024, I want to mention about Croatia as well. Now, Croatia is doing their Fiscalization 2.0 project, which is an interesting project to make all the small taxpayers or small entrepreneurs, I think they phrase it, start doing e-invoicing and e-booking, or e-bookkeeping, rather, through tools provided by the government. So this is a way for the government to actually monitor and keep track of what's happening with the smallest taxpayers. So let's see, let's go to the future again. So many of these flags or this timeline you see is part of the previous mandates I already told you about, the rollout, so to speak. But the key country to remember, I would say, for 2025 would be China. Now China is doing several different pilots actually with e-Fapiao in different provinces, which is e-invoicing through a centralized platform. And we're seeing more and more news that they're rolling out in more and more provinces, but the big date, I think, is in 2025, possibly January, that's going to be a countrywide implementation where all taxpayers are going to have to do this. This is what we expect. This could be changed, but exciting times to be sure. China is a massive market, biggest economy in the world or second largest economy, so very interesting to be sure. So, and as Camilo said, in 2028 we're going to have VAT in digital age. I don't think I have to mention much about that after that phenomenal presentation. So let's just go forwards to a little bit more of a in-depth, yet still very much high-level presentation about France itself. Because we have a lot of questions about France. Both the French and the Polish mandates of high interest to a lot of companies and our customers as well. So what's up with France, you might ask? So from July next year, all taxpayers, of course, are going to have to be able to receive e-invoices. And the largest taxpayers also going to have to start issuing e-invoices. From that point, it's going to be a rollout. In 25, we'll have the medium taxpayers. And in January 2026, you're going to have the small and micro taxpayers also follow this issuing mandate. But it's not just a domestic B2B e-invoicing mandate. We're also talking e-reporting of cross-border B2B transactions and domestic B2C transactions. So not only you have to do e-invoicing, you're also going to have to report your transactions you've done to the DG50, the French tax authority. And on top of this, you also have invoice responses and payment statuses. It's going to have to be sent in between the buyer and the supplier, such as payment received or invoice rejected, for instance. But how do you actually do this? The French leave many possibilities to actually how to get the necessary information to the tax authority. So we have the Chorus or the PPF portal, which is a centralized platform which you can connect with directly as a taxpayer to issue invoices through. Not only can you do this, you can also use an uncertified service provider, an OD. I believe it stands for, and pardon my French because I don't speak French, operateur dématérialisation. You can use one of these uncertified service providers who can connect with Chorus or the PPF platform to also issue through a centralized fashion. And last way you can comply with this mandate is to connect with a PDP or a certified service provider. I believe PDP stands for Partner Dématérialisation Platform. I really shouldn't try to say the French, but what the hell. So the big thing between a PDP and an OD, a certified service provider and the uncertified one, is that the certified service providers, the PDPs, they can issue invoices directly to other PDPs without going through the centralized platform. And then just report these transactions to the PPF platform or Chorus. Chorus, of course, is the current B2G platform, but in 2024 we're going to have the PPF one. So the main difference, they can issue directly, while all other ones are going to have to go straight through the centralized platform. When it comes to what kind of formats, you're going to have the UBL, cross-industry invoices, and Factura X as the mandatory invoice formats. You have to use one of these. We're talking exclusive electronic archiving, and I think that's about it actually for the French mandate. This is still like high level. You can actually really deep dive, but this is a good start to get to know what's happening in France. Poland, I would say, is a little bit simpler in the sense we don't have that many alternatives. In Poland, you have the KSEF platform, which is a centralized approach. You're going to issue all invoices through KSEF. Now, currently, there's a voluntary adoption. You are allowed to join the KSEF platform and program. And by doing so, I do believe you have some minor benefits, such as you have a faster VAT refund, and you can also do archiving through the platform itself. But from July 2024, now bear in mind this is also has been postponed recently. Previously it was January 2024, but a few weeks ago they released a draft indicating that it's going to be pushed to July. So all taxpayers in Poland are going to have to issue invoices through the KSEF. And we're also talking cross-border in the sense that if you issue like exports, for instance, these are also going to have to be reported through the KSEF platform. So other parts of this new proposal that came is we're going to be excluding B2C invoices. We're also talking about maybe not introducing the penalties right away, but maybe from January 2025. But this might also change. This is still a draft, but the way we're looking at it right now, we do believe that this draft is going to be introduced in July this year. So that's it for my presentation. I'm very happy to have you listen.
Thank you so much, Emil, for your great explanation. You gave us a lot of details, high details for Poland and France, that I confirm that many customers are asking to us, as you know, about Poland and France. So thank you so much. So in conclusion, how Intesa can support you? We can say from the management of the different country regulation, as you explained before, to the standardization of the different custom formats, because we know that there are many formats for each country, up to the forwarding to the local apps of each country. Intesa requires to its customers only the production and the forwarding of their own invoices in the established format. In fact, Intesa has developed its international invoicing platform with the multi-connector and the multi-format function, adopting an end-to-end approach in order to do the activation of the various countries, how we said before. What is our aims? Intesa aims to create a smart business network that constantly ensures, thank you to Pagero also, the compliance in the electronic invoicing and, as our service, the long-term archiving, regardless, of course, of the industry and the geographical area. So if you want to recap what Intesa do for its customer, we can say that the single point of interface of Intesa is composed by regulatory compliance according to law, production of digital invoices for each country, the API connection that we provided to our customers, the management and activation of multi-country, because we face with all the countries, and last, the long-term archiving. Dear guests, I think our webinar has come to an end, and I think that we are ready, guys, to answer to the some questions, because I see that there are many questions for us. If it's okay for you, I will start with the questions. It's okay.
Yes,
for
okay.
you? Okay, perfect.
Wonderful.
So I start from the beginning. The first one is there a single model that could be used at the European level? I think that Camillo...
Okay, probably, yeah, it
it's
could
for
be
you.
for me.
It's for you. The first one is
okay
for you.
for you both, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good question. I'm afraid there is no an answer. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. The situation is still fragmented, as I previously said, and it's complicated probably to find a model suitable for all the nation. Actually, with the observatory, we try to build a hybrid model between a centralized exchange model and the interoperability one. Why? To try to achieve the fiscal purpose, so the support to the tax authority with the centralized exchange model, and the interoperability with the interoperability one. So one is for national operations, the centralized one, and the interoperability for the exchange between the different member states throughout Europe. Exchange for Italy also to safeguard the investment, and here the idea actually is that each nation for national operations should decide the model to adopt, okay, for national purpose. Interoperability instead for the exchange between enterprises belonging to the different states. So that is the idea. Probably we are trying to think of it about probably with the observatory, with Intesa too. We are trying to do this work.
Yes, I know. Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much.
Great answer.
Great answer. It was very difficult, but
very
you
difficult
gave
question.
a great answer, I'm sure. Okay, we go on. Another question is, will service providers who do not offer regulatory compliance services to their international customers be less competitive for the market? I don't know, maybe Emil, you want to answer?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
It's a good question too.
Yes, so let's see if it would be less competitive. Yeah, the short answer I believe is yes. As a vendor on the market, Pagero, we're seeing now a lot of our customers are actually asking for compliance, regulatory aspect as well. Not just automation of the invoices, but a big driving factor that our customers are screaming for is actually regulatory compliance. And if you are a service provider out on the market who doesn't also offer compliance, that means if you get a customer, they're also going to have to get a second vendor as well to be compliant to a lot of these mandates, because the mandates are telling you you have to do it this way, you have to be compliant. And having one vendor who can do all of that for you is a huge advantage. And I can imagine it probably can be quite difficult for service provider out there who maybe doesn't have this regulatory aspect to their platforms as well. So a resounding yes from my part. I do believe it can be quite a challenge for such providers.
So definitely is yes.
Definitely.
To this question. Perfect. I think we have enough time. It's to answer another question that's it's here. What is the time to be expected for an international electronic invoicing project? Whew, great question too. Well, I can answer to this question. Probably it's for me. We can say that the timing certainly is related to the regulatory, the regulation of each country, as you said before, Emil. But I want to say that the timing also depends from the expertise that the company has internally in order to produce the document formats. At Intesa, we can say that we have planned standard formats, document formats, and standard API connection in order to work with our customers in order to reduce, of course, the economic efforts and the timing for the project. But, however, if a company wants to use his customized API connection or his custom format, it's possible, of course. But this type of project need to be started from the new, from Intesa side, and of course with a related demand of time and costs too. So there will be a different effort, because if it's standard, it's okay. There is a different effort in terms of timing and costs. We can say, and Emil knows, that we have already started projects, and we have really realized how internal company skills of our customers can affect this timing. So what we can say to our customer, we can invite our customer not to hesitate to contact us in time, of course, and then to give us their own characteristics, their own needed in order to have a complete project and to think together to a project for of course, for the international invoicing. Because it's not easy to have an international invoicing project. I think we have answered to all questions. So thank you, Emil, thank you, Camillo, for being with us today. Of course, thank you to attend to this webinar, and of course we wish you a nice rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye.